from Matt Brown, who's been on with us from Extra Points, is a heck of an analyst for college football and more than just games or whatever. So after the Clemson-Duke game, here's his tweet last night. I cannot wait for the ACC to enter this big, fancy new merit revenue sharing model that teams like Clemson fought so hard for, and teams like Duke and Wake Forest start earning more of the money. This would be the funniest time for Clemson to start going 8-4.
I saw the term Clemsoning last night, and I feel like I haven't seen that in about 5 or 6 years. But do y'all recall when that was the regular thing and Clemsoning was Clemsoning and that was a real deal? And I saw that brought back up last night. It was like, oh, my gosh, I almost forgot that even existed because they'd had so much success. But, yeah, it's a brand new world for the ACC as far as the revenue sharing goes. And as they point out, there's going to be, some of that going on. But, hey, Duke got the big win, and I guess Clemson gets some of their money. If it plays out the way that it does, Wake Forest will give, Clemson some of their money if they have a big season. But, no, Clemson, to the point of just them in general, it's a very strange time, man. I mean, it's a strange time. You worry about Dabo losing his grip. You worry about the whole NIL saga that you've been through as far as his feelings on that. And then you watch a game like last night and you're like, wow, they're not really more talented than Duke. What's going on here? Whereas you watch them in previous years and it's like their receivers are clearly the best on the field. Their quarterback is great. And, it's Cade Klubnik, it's taken him a little while to kind of.
How about Garrett Riley?
I mean, all across the board, yeah. I mean, Cade Klubnik hasn't been, overly impressive really at all. So far we've seen him. You see some of the tools and why, he was valued the way that he was. But, I mean, obviously part of the problem is the offense that he's playing in. And you make this big hire in Garrett Riley, who had such an awesome year with Sonny Dykes and the Frogs. I think the one thing is, if you wanted to say, well, yeah, it was with Sonny Dykes, though, that you got to take that. And it's like being a offensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley. You're probably pretty good, but how much of that was also Lincoln Riley? Now, I think Garrett Riley is still a good offensive mind, but some of TCU's magic was that. It was magic. It was just a combination of things. I think it was the playing probably off of each other somewhat. So now to have this big opportunity and go, off to Clemson with big expectations, a big-time quarterback, and to go lay an egg in the way that they did. And let's face it, they had opportunities. I mean, they just made some really bad mistakes, bad turnovers in the red zone, and just really uncharacteristic for a championship kind of level team, and that cost them. And Duke was the better team when all was said and done. But yeah, I think there's a lot of wringing of the hands over Dabo in particular. But yeah, obviously, if things don't get better quickly under Garrett Riley or Cade Klubnik, then there's going to be a lot of hand wringing compared to just this last 24 hours.
Wet blanket Riley didn't fumble.
No.
I did see the quote, and this is kind of one of those things that Dabo, when he gets criticized, a couple of different things. One, he really refuses to be a part of the transfer portal. I don't know exactly. Does it mean that there's not NIL? I think he's one of those. You got to watch how things go with how he accepts and also integrates the new college football, where you've seen what Colorado and Dion have done, or what G.J. Kinney even at Texas State have done, and other schools. And look at Coleman, the wide receiver at Florida State that was at Michigan State. But Dabo's kind of dug his heels in. He doesn't want to really change or give in to the newness, and that's his prerogative. But they weren't great last year. They were good, but there is an expectation when you set the standard, and he gave them a standard that Clemson fans had never seen before since Danny Ford won a title back, I think, what was it, like in 1980 or 81. So there's a little bit of that. Is he under the heat? No. But, yeah, there's a little bit of that. You really need to open up your eyes to the newness. After the game, speaking of Garrett Riley, he said it's Clemson's offense. He wouldn't say that it was Garrett Riley and his offense, that it's Clemson's offense. So there's a lot of that territorial, not high school football coach mentality, but very close to that with him.
Yeah, there's some of that, and you're absolutely right. Like I mentioned, the turnovers in the red zone, those were the killers. I mean, those were the absolute daggers for them, and we are talking a lot different about Dabo probably, but certainly about Garrett Riley, Cade Klubnik, just in general. Any I guess concerns coming out of that game are just magnified, amplified by the result and the way that it unfolded. It was an ugly performance for Clemson. And I mean, here's the thing: they've not won less than 10 games in well over a decade now at this point. So yeah, there's no there's lukewarm seat doesn't even exist in my mind, but they'll get it right. I mean, they're still a good team. They're just not dominant. They had a stretch where they were on Alabama's level, and really since NIL opened up, I mean, they're still on that level. They're still winning 11, 10 games every single year, but it is a difference that wasn't there before. It is, and it's one that they clearly have, or their head coach clearly has a different position on than some others, or at least is more vocal about his position than some others. And when you're not winning at the clip that you were, and you are outspoken about the way that you're doing things as compared to other people, you just naturally can expect that your fan base or outsiders are going to say, oh, see, they're losing. He refuses to embrace the transfer portal. And that's just, that comes with the territory. But go out there and win, and then you can show that shiny trophy and be like, you take your transfer portal and shove it. But it is something that you have to keep an eye on if you're a Clemson fan or observer for sure.
So we brought this up yesterday that Shedeur